and thank you for being here. We are gathered here as a group today as concerned citizens and respected leaders of Nashville who deeply love our community and have put in the sweat equity to keep Nashville the place we love to call home. I stand here with members of our Metro Council Minority Caucus, the Davidson County Delegation, the Representative John Lewis Way Committee, the Metro Nashville Community Oversight Board, the Interdenominational Ministers Fellowship, NAACP, along with the Honorable Brenda Gilmore, the Honorable Brenda Haywood, as well as Ms. Tanya Chandler from the Mayor's Office, and the Honorable Zofat, so could not be here but comes in support. We're here today because we believe in Nashville determining its own future. We are here because we believe in democracy. Whether you're white, black, or brown Tennesseans are all represented in this city. As we just heard in the House Local Government Committee, members of this legislative body who do not represent Nashville want to take over control of our city. If enacted, House Bill 48 would reduce the size of Nashville City Council, Metro Council, by at least half. This is a targeted attempt to usurp and undermine the will of the people and the voters of Davidson County. This action has been taken against the will of the voters and against the will of our elected officials. And let me stress, this is not the first time or the second time that this has been a hostile takeover by this legislature. We are constantly being preempted with laws that tie our hands behind our backs and prevent us from addressing real quality of life issues such as affordable housing, livable wages, police accountability, unhoused populations, and the rapid growth of our city. Not to mention the terrible redistricting that just happened of our congressional districts that reduced our black voting power and representation. House Bill 48 will do the same. We want to end these constant threats against our city. Every person here today wants to build a productive partnership between the state legislature and its capital. But we can't move forward together as long as these barrage of threats are being lodged against us. If Nashville wants to change the size of its city, that should be the decision made by Nashville. Just a little bit of history that you heard in the committee meeting. Our metro government, form of government was formed in the 1960s, the 10th time of race relations in America. But voters in black and white came together to create a form of government that represents all interests. And it was only made possible because of a partnership between the city, county, and the legislature. Today, black Nashvilles are represented on the Metro Council. 25% of the seats are held by black and brown Tennesseans. With black folks accounting for 28% of the city's population, we're pretty close to where we should be, and we're here to make sure that's where our representation remains. This is a success story that we all wrote together. Nashville's government is working in the face of unprecedented growth, unprecedented times of a global pandemic, in the face of tornadoes and natural disasters and a downtown bombing. And despite the adversarial posturing of our legislature, Nashville's government is still working. Let our metropolitan government be a model, not a martyr, for collaboration, compromise, and setting aside our differences. If this legislation wants to move forward, I fear the representation of black and brown Nashvillians will suffer. That could set us back as a city and a state for a generation. Now I understand that members of the majority party in the legislature and majority of the members of the Metro Council don't agree on many policy matters, but there should be room for disagreements without the threat of political retribution. Nashville wants to be a partner to the state, not a punching bag. Our economy and our schools, our healthcare and safety are all intertwined. We believe we can work together, but we have to break this cycle of threats and replace it with communication and productivity for the betterment of our state. And I will yield now to Representative Vincent Dixie.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you. I want to thank Senator Oliver for gathering all this together and getting us to convene together, because this was a huge task to get everybody on the same page. But when you have a common cause that brings us together and unites us, I think it was an easy ask and an easy lift to get everyone here today. And the one thing that I want to talk about, and I'll be brief, is about the government overreach. We've seen this happen over and over again here in Davidson County. This is probably it's probably the second gross examples of what I've seen. The first one was Mason, Tennessee. At first they wanted to take over them because they weren't doing well. So maybe that's understandable. I could see why you might want to try to get their finances in order before you move on to a more city. Yes, they got everything together. But now on the other end of the spectrum, you have Nashville, Davidson County, that has all the leading economic indicators throughout the state and really power this state, and now you want to take over. So it's not necessarily about money, it's about control. And it's the long game that they play. And I want you to think it back to the congressional redistricting. We have 3 people representing Nashville that live 50 to 100 miles away. They have no touch with what's going on in Nashville, but they represent Nashville. This is what they're asking our Metro Council people to do, to double the caseload that they have. They have a huge workload already, and it's a lot of work that they do. And I don't envy them, but they do a great job at what they're doing. And I don't appreciate that no one from the city, I don't think the mayor has sent anything publicly written. I don't think there's been a proclamation or a resolution by the city council asking for this. There hasn't been any kind of mandates from the votes taken for the citizens here in Davidson County asking for this. So when you say that we're not efficient, we're being too efficient, so now you want to control everything that's going on with us. That is absolutely has to stop. So I want to make sure that people understand this is the beginning of a slippery slope, and there's more bills that will come throughout this that will be targeted at Davidson County, as far as maybe some of the sports authority, our convention center, the airport authority. Those are some of the big money makers that fund a lot of things that go on in our city. And we want to make sure that historically those have been appointed by the mayor in pretty much every other major city in Tennessee. That's how it works. So why is Nashville so special to draw the ire and the eye of this General Assembly? There's only one answer to that. It is control. And I want to bring up Council Lady Delisha Porterfield, and I'll let her speak.
My name is Delisha Porterfield. I am a councilwoman here in Nashville. I represent District 29 in Southeast Nashville, and I also serve as the chair of our Minority Caucus. As it stands, our Minority Caucus is comprised of 10 members. Of our 40-member body, we have 10 members who identify as African American. We have our first Latina elected council member. We have our first Muslim council member. We have a first generation and a second generation immigrant serving on this body. We have gender parity, and half of our body is comprised of women. So if you ask me, the citizens and the voters of Nashville have done a darn good job in making sure that their representation is as diverse as the city. And we are on par in many areas with the census data with our representation. And this harmful legislation threatens to roll us back. As it was mentioned in committee, if passed, as it stands, this could roll us back to pre-1960 numbers. And that's not something that's going to be helpful for anyone here in Nashville. Ultimately, we all want the same thing. We believe, and we hear that some representatives believe in things called small government. Well, this is the opportunity to have the smallest form of government with regards to council representation. As it stands, we serve about 20,000 constituents. If you reduce the size of council, you're looking at now us serving anywhere from 35,000 to 40,000 constituents. That hurts our population. That hurts our constituents. When people reach out to us about trash pickup, about deaths in their family, about needing things and resources, people reach out to us for help with their light bill, to speak at their churches. These are individuals that we are in community with. We are in community with our constituents. And when you raise the number of constituents that we as council members serve, not only do you make our jobs harder, but you make us further from the people that elected us to serve. And that is very harmful, and we cannot set that precedent. And as it was already stated, this is one piece of harmful legislation in a slate of legislation of state overreach and state preemption that we must stand together and we have to say, as Nashvillians, this is not what we want. We want to make sure that representatives are listening to us, and we trust we hope that there are individuals out there that will listen to the will of the people of Nashville. Just as recent as 2015, Nashvillians overwhelmingly voted that they did not want to reduce the size of council. This is at least the second time that has come up since our combined consolidated government in 1962, which that consolidation was done in an effort to make sure that there was diverse and minority representation. We are on par with minority representation, and we do not want to lose that. This will make it very harmful for minorities and will decrease minority representation, and we cannot have that. We have to make sure that we continue to have the diversity that we currently have on our National Metro Council. And with that, I'll bring up Mr. Milliner from the Community Oversight Board.
Thank you, Madam Councilwoman. Much like the proposed legislation to reduce the size of the Metro Council, the proposed legislation to abolish the Nashville-Davidson County Community Oversight Board, which investigates citizen complaints of police misconduct. These bills seek to overturn the two-thirds majority will, the two-thirds voted majority will of the citizens of Nashville and Davidson County. How horrific it is that this type of legislation should come to us just as Tyree Nichols has been laid to rest as a result of a vicious and fatal beating at the hands of the police. And the great state of Tennessee would propose such a bill, and that would allow law enforcement to police itself once again. This legislation to abolish the COB is tone deaf. This legislation is without thought, and I would call on the state legislator on both sides of the aisle to think about what is in the best interest of the citizens across this state. I would like to also call attention to the fact that we would also like to ask the constituents of these legislators to contact their representatives and to remind them of how this current proposed bill will obliterate the work that has been done by so many for so long to bring transparency and accountability as we work in collaboration with the Metropolitan Nashville Police Department. This type of overreach, as it's been stated, lies in the face of the will of the people and should not be something that fades away from the light of Nashville overnight. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm going to be very, very brief. My name is Reverend Danita Lewis. I am the president of the NAACP, where we have many members. We are here today to represent our people, our communities, and our children. We will stand here today unified, and we will stand again in unity to support our elected legislators as they are faced with several current bills which directly and adversely impacts the communities of Black and brown people. We are also here to support the members of the City Council as they are navigating through uncharted waters with Bill 48, which would decrease the council from 40 members down to 20 members. And as we very well know, it will adversely impact our community. We are here to be heard. We are here to be strong voices for our people, and we will continue to stand together for the next generation. Thank you. Now I'm gonna turn it back over to Senator Oliver.
Well, that concludes our press conference. As you've heard, we stand united against this House bill to shrink our Metro Council. It's gonna have grave consequences if we cannot respond to the needs of our residents and our constituents. It's gonna impact further the quality of life that our constituents can have. And so we are standing here asking this body, this legislative body, to not pass this bill. Does anybody have questions? We'll take questions.
Yes, I've got a question. One of the main points brought up by the bill sponsor is that the current council number as it stands leads to inefficiencies. What is your response to that? Anyone is okay.
Thank you. I would like to respond to that. Yesterday in our Budget and Finance Committee hearing, we heard that our city has the distinct honor of having a AA plus bond rating, which is the next to the highest rating. That does not speak to inefficiency to me. When I travel across the country working with various elected officials, everyone talks about Nashville. They want to visit Nashville. Our tourism is booming. Our economy is booming. People are thriving here in this city. Other legislators talked about the progress that they see in Nashville that they wish their cities had. That does not speak to inefficiency to me. I think our government is working in a way that is very efficient and it is very effective for the people of Nashville.
Do they talk about how many councilmen you have? Do they ever speak about how many councilmen you have? Because that's the other side, that's their.
Absolutely. So with the number of council members, one thing that has to be noted is that 40 members comprises of both our city and our county. This is a consolidated government. So if you go back and watch subcommittee from last week, I believe it was Representative McKenzie, gave a breakdown and talked about the representation numbers. If you look at other municipalities, yes, they may have fewer members on their body. However, they also have a county government. So when you combine the two, that is what makes our government run so effectively and efficiently. And I would also like to add that there are, I believe it's 14 other consolidated governments across the country, and everyone has used our model as a model. So that again speaks to the success of the way that Nashville does their government.
Is this about retribution? I mean, about the Republican Party wanting to have the RNC convention here and the council not being behind it? Tough question, I know.
That is a very tough question. What I will say is that my colleagues and I stand by our decision, and we did what we felt was in the best interest of the people of Nashville. There were grave safety concerns about bringing the RNC. Our constituents let us know that this was something that they did not want to see here in Nashville, and I would like to step aside and let anyone else that wants to address that as well.
That will conclude questions for this session. I just want to thank again everyone who came and spoke. It takes a lot to stand here in bravery to speak out, and we don't take this job lightly. And so we just want to thank you again. Thank y'all for coming as well.
Thank you.